We are back. Welcome to another season of the CHL Top 10 show. My name is Scott Van Koenen, and our first episode of the year, you'll hear from the GM and captain of the Saginaw Spirit, who just so happened to be hosts of the 2024 Memorial Cup presented by Dow. With nearly a decade at the helm of the Saginaw Spirit, GM Dave Drinkill, armed with a new 3-year extension, is like a kid on Christmas as he prepares his team to be the first American club to host the Memorial Cup since the Spokane Chiefs did back in 1998, 25 years ago. We talk about his relationship with Coach Lazary, how bidding on the Memorial Cup changed the course of a team that features young stars like Misa and Zayne Parekh, how he plans to use all of those draft picks acquired in the Pavel Mintyukov trade, and the importance of taking time throughout the season to enjoy the ride. Here's Dave Drinkill. Really excited to welcome today the GM of the franchise that will host the Memorial Cup presented by Dow next spring. That's Saginaw's GM, Dave Drinkill. Dave, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. It's, weather's a little bit rainy, but that's kind of what we expect this time of year. Can you believe it's already your 9th season in Saginaw?
I know, it's crazy. I said one thing, people talk to me like, what's the biggest thing you've learned since you became a GM in Saginaw? And I said the 9 years flies by really quick. It feels like yesterday, I got the job and, I was meeting everybody for the first time in our first draft. And now I'm seeing guys that we drafted play in the NHL and, have kids and all these type of things. So it definitely goes by real quickly.
Well, let's start there. Guys that you've drafted and playing in the NHL, the first one that comes to my mind is Cole Perfetti in Winnipeg. And, what does it mean to you when you see him, getting the second line center job in Winnipeg this year, and he's still so young?
No, I'm very proud. When you bring in a guy like Cole and you meet him right away and his family and how he was raised and his work ethic and talent, you obviously know he's going to have an NHL career ahead of him. But a lot of things have to go right in the junior hockey world. He has to develop into the player that you think he can be. And our coaching staff did a great job with that. And obviously he took the ball and ran with it. And to see him doing well now and healthy and coming into a big year for Winnipeg, and then the news that they just signed Scheifele and Hellebuck there, it's a big news for that franchise and for Cole. And I'm definitely excited for him. And then, seeing Mintyukov named on the Anaheim opening night roster for now, and hopefully he sticks there to start the year and gets a game or two in early and gets his feet wet in the NHL right away. A very cool moment, because it seems like yesterday I was there at the U17s and Swift Current and saw him playing for the first time for Team Russia. And, that's going back a few years now. And like we mentioned off the top, time definitely flies. But at the end of the day, we do this job to put these players to where they want to go into the NHL. And it's a proud moment for any organization when it happens.
Well, under your guidance, we've seen some of the best hockey coming out of Saginaw over the last 9 years. And you were recently re-upped for another 3 years. What does that mean to you to have that faith shown by ownership group?
Yeah, no, it means a lot. The trust that they put in myself. I always say I don't have a job. I do something that I love for a living, and to allow me to keep on doing that in a place that I call home now. And I always say anybody that knows me knows I'm very passionate about Saginaw and the community, and it really means a lot to me and how they brought me in. So to be able to continue doing what we're doing and being with my head coach, Chris Lazary, and building what we've done and what we believe is an elite franchise in the CHL now, and how far we've come since day one, and the things we've continued to build on, means a lot. We're excited. I'm extremely happy. I'm humbled to keep having this opportunity, and it's up to me to keep producing a good winning team for the owners that do everything for us.
And how important was it for you to get Chris signed to an extra 3 years as well to keep pace with you?
For me, it was a no-brainer. Like Laz, I think, is one of the best junior coaches in the CHL, and I think eventually he's going to move on up. But for now, we're happy to have him here in Saginaw. And if he's coaching in our league, he's not going to coach anywhere but in Saginaw with me, in my mind. So we work hand in hand. We have a working relationship. We have a friendship. We have a brotherhood. I can't say enough good things about Chris and what he brings to the organization every day, his work ethic, his talent as a coach, his desire to be the best and instill that into our team. It's hard to find. So when you have that in a coach and you really believe in him and you have that kind of working relationship and then friendship on top of it, I think it's a special thing. And I think both of us realize it, and we're happy to continue to be together here for the next few years.
You've been around the league for a long time now. How hard is it to get a good working relationship like that, and for this long especially?
It's tough. I've been in my former job with Dale Howardchuk and struck up a friendship with him, and obviously other coaches along the way. But to be rowing in the same direction, and by that I don't mean you have to agree on everything. Nobody's a yes man here by any means. We do butt heads and disagree on different things, but at the end of the day, when decisions are made, we know we both have each other's back, and we're heading in the same direction with that decision. But it's definitely tough. I think people have different agendas at different times. But for Chris, it's not like that with him and I. And we have something that I think and I know he thinks is special. And we'll continue building and that funnels down to the players. But it all starts at the top with ownership, down to myself, down to Chris and his staff. And then the players can feed off that as well. And I think in my time being in junior hockey, when players know that the ownership and management and coach and everybody's on the same page, I think it makes it a lot easier and definitely helps build that culture within your room and your organization.
Well, this year you bring in Jake Grimes as an assistant coach who obviously has loads of experience, including some Memorial Cup experience. How important was it to you to bring in a guy with that kind of experience to help Chris out on the bench?
Yeah, when we were looking in the offseason to fill that associate coach role, we wanted somebody with experience in the league, somebody who Laz can lean on a little bit for, help in different things. And to Laz's credit, he kind of sought out Jake, and, he was coaching at the University of Waterloo at the time. And we met with Jake, and Laz talked to him obviously a ton, and we're able to come up to a deal for him to come to Saginaw. And for Jake, he's been in Memorial Cups, he's been a player in the league, he's been a pro. He's had an injury-shortened career. He's kind of been there, done that, and our players can lean on that, and we can lean on that as a staff. And he happened to be on the staff, in Guelph to beat us in Game 7 in the conference finals a few years ago. So that's always an ongoing joke around the room that maybe doesn't sit lightly with Laz and I. But, at the end of the day, there's different things that we can ask him. And, you've been in this Memorial Cup, what worked, what didn't. Even little things off the ice for team building. And that experience to us was really valuable. And we're happy to have Jake as part of the organization.
Well, like we mentioned, Memorial Cup, I know you guys are excited. First American OHL team to ever host, first American team to host since 1998. What was the reaction? I know you've talked about it quite a bit, but what was that reaction and how excited were you guys when you finally got that news, even just to know that you were going to make the bid? Because as soon as you guys announced that you're making the bid, the wheels started turning and you guys started preparing for this.
For sure. I think when ownership approached me basically at this time last year about, the thoughts about potentially putting our name in for the bid, and I was real supportive of it as a general manager. I knew we had a really good team last year at the time, and we could have easily pushed and added to that. But I said to our ownership, if we're going to do it, this is the time to do it, with Michael, Misa, and Parekh, and the players we had at the time. And, when we decided to make that bid, it definitely changed the course a little bit for our team, which was very tough. Made tough decisions on the organization, on myself, on our coach, moving some players out that we were going to put them in a position for them to have a chance to win the championship last year, because knowing we were bidding on the cup, we weren't going to make a push last year. So that part was tough, but then you don't know if you're going to be selected, right, to win the bid. We put our best foot forward on the ice, off the ice. Craig Goslin and his staff did a phenomenal job with the bid process and what we can do here in Saginaw and how we can showcase it. But you make these trades, you kind of dismantle a little bit of a real good team last year, and to play your young guys to get them ready for the Memorial Cup. And when we got that call, I was scouting the OHL Cup in Toronto, and Chris called me to say that ownership had called him and they were on their way to his house. So I knew it was going to go one way or the other. I just paced around the parking lot till they called me back, and then they let me know that I had a feeling, when they were on their way to his house, that we had it. But to get that call, it was a very surreal moment, quiet on the phone. I didn't know really what to say. I knew I was extremely excited being an Ontario boy growing up following the Memorial Cup so much in my life. That now we're in it. Now the hard work starts, but we have a chance to do something special here in Saginaw and really showcase the community that I'm very proud of.
When you had time to sit and process that and know that you're actually going for it, did you and Laz sit down and just kind of start circling names and looking at what kind of pieces you had to take the next steps?
Yeah, for sure. The process started a long time, before that. You're always kind of projecting out what your team's going to be like the next year or not. And if you wanted to maybe make some moves to make your team better that year. What's your team going to be like returning if those happen? So we kind of always have those discussions. I have an ongoing, projected rosters years out down the road. Obviously, if changes happen and no lines linear to the top, but definitely sat down what pieces we need, what pieces might be available next year. If we're going to do this, I had to explain to our coaching staff that we need a lot of draft picks, because in our league, you do try to acquire players for draft picks, similar to what we did last year by moving Minchikov for 9 draft picks. And very tough at the time to look at your team and your staff and your fans really and say, we didn't get a player back, we just got draft picks, but those draft picks indirectly will turn into players for this year's bid or this year's run at the Cup. And the first domino that kind of fell last year was moving, Josh Bloom and Braden Hislop to North Bay. Getting a lot of draft picks in that deal that I indirectly flipped to Barrie for Hunter Haight, who's a huge part of our team right now and what we feel is one of the best players in the league and off to a great start. So definitely a long-winded answer, but your wheels are always turning as a GM, and I work in conjunction with Laz. He knows everything I'm thinking at all times, and vice versa. I just believe that you need that cohesiveness with your coach. I don't want to bring in a player that he doesn't like. I don't want to bring in a player and force him to play him. But in turn, he'll challenge me to, bring in different players he wants, and I'll challenge him back the players that we need to actually fit this roster. So definitely the working relationship, going back to what we talked about earlier, definitely plays a huge role in it in my mind.
And then this summer, you reach out to Marty Williamson once again, and you bring in Braden Haché. What was it about Braden the player that made you want to bring him in, and what is it about Braden the person that made him the right fit for the captaincy this year?
Yeah, we always knew a lot about Braden going back to his minor hockey days, and I'll talk about him as a player first, because I could talk to you for hours about the type of person he is. He's a great young man, but as a player, we got traded from Kingston to Barrie last year at the deadline, and we always thought he was a great player and a great pickup for Barrie. But then watching that team in the playoffs and the role he played and how he helped support Brant Clark, who's a phenomenal player, and what he did for that organization, I thought his game really grew. He was a target of mine right away when I saw Barrie play, and once he got into that Barrie uniform and the type of player he'd become there. But we didn't know if he'd be back in our league as an overager. So, and then Marty wasn't really thrilled on the idea of maybe moving on from Braden, because they loved him and Barrie and what he brought for that organization. So a lot of talks throughout the summer, and I'm sure I bugged Marty a lot on the phone. But when we found out that maybe there's a chance Braden was going to be back, he's obviously number one target for me to shore up our back end, shore up our leadership and OA position. And we were lucky enough to strike that deal and get him here before training camp, which I thought and Chris thought was very crucial to be here from the get-go and be part of the messaging to our team in the Memorial Cup year. And just everything you hear about him as a person, how good of a kid he is and young man he is all true and more. He came in and he has a presence about him, the way he includes everybody, the way he gets the message from myself and Chris to the team so clearly and help push the guys on and off the ice. He's a true leader by every sense of the word. And, we had a lot of good leaders in that room, and it was still a tough decision to name him captain. Hunter Haight, Dean Locust, those guys easily could have been our captain as well. But ultimately we went with Braden, and, we do a leadership by committee group. Everybody's involved in decisions, but him as a captain, getting to know him real quickly, it was a choice that we were extremely comfortable with, and I know he's going to thrive in it.
What does he do for a guy like Zayne Parekh? You mentioned him playing alongside Brant Clark, obviously another offensive defenseman. What does he do for Zayne?
Well, I think with Zayne, he's paired on and off with Zayne right now. We're still trying to figure out our deep pairings earlier in the year, but Zayne, we need him to be that offensive catalyst, that guy who's up the ice creating plays. And anybody who's watched Zayne Parekh play, when he grabs the puck in open ice or in the offensive zone, you perk up, because something might happen here offensively for your team. He's a special player, a special talent, and there's a reason why he did what he did last year in our league, and he's a highly touted prospect for this year's draft. But Braden's just that calming influence. He has a ton of offensive upside in his game as well. Braden does, that we're going to keep pushing to get out of him, because I think there is a two-way defenseman there. But so sound defensively, able to get back, able to add a little bit of physical presence to that deep pairing or a D-core in general. And again, just be a guy that Zayne can lean on for advice. Braden's been in the league now for 5 years and been to NHL camps and been NHL drafted. And and played NHL exhibition games. And I think Zayne going into his draft year, wanting all that, has a guy that he can lean on now on the back end and hang out with and kind of be a mentor for him. And I think, Braden can look at what happened with Brant Clark and lean on experience with him as well, because I think Zayne and Brant are similar players, and definitely worked out for Brant last year as well in Barrie.
What do you kind of hope for to see from Zayne this year? In his draft year, like you mentioned, he's projected to be a first round pick next June. What kind of growth do you want to see in his game? I don't want you to, throw numbers out there, but he's set the bar pretty high for himself already.
For sure he has, and I think the best part about Zayne is that he wants that bar set high and he wants to exceed it. He's driven. He's fun to watch. He's fun to be around. He's so talented on the back end. He makes other players better. And I think for myself, I think his offense will always be there. And talking to everybody, just shoring up his own end. I think he doesn't get enough credit for the way he does defend. I think people look at him and say, oh, he doesn't defend hard enough, or he doesn't do this in his own end. Well, Zayne's very, very smart. He doesn't need to get into bodies all the time and get into physical puck battles in order to win, spots in the D zone. If you really watch how active his stick is and how he reads the play, he breaks up so many things before they happen, that he doesn't have to get into that type of positioning in that battle. But he does need to, obviously, if that happens, you need to get into those puck battles hard and keep working on his defensive play. But he needs to learn to do that without taking away from his offense. And so far, so good. He put up 4 assists the other night, and he's had a good start to the year. But definitely, I know that's something Zayne's cognizant about. He's working on very hard on his defending. But again, I think he doesn't get enough credit how smart he is and how much he breaks up plays before they even happen.
How much do Zayne and Michael Misa kind of push each other? Obviously, Zayne could have easily won in any other year the OHL Rookie of the Year. Ends up that teammate Michael Misa wins it. How much do those guys push each other?
Well, they push each other a lot. Growing up and playing the GTHL against each other, and now with us, and then the Ivan Lincoln together. The best part about Zayne and Michael is they don't talk about the Rookie of the Year, and Zayne doesn't hold any ill will towards Michael. I'm sure he's proud of him, but there's not another good thing about Michael. They're just one of the team, part of the guys in the team, want to win, obviously want to be great players, because if they're great players, they're going to help our team win. But there's a lot of attention on those two everywhere we go, and they're both humble. They take it in stride, and they want to be the best. But there's a lot of pressure on them as well, and it's pretty impressive to see how they've handled it so far. And it's up to us to make sure that they keep handling that pressure properly, and we're there for them, in a support role to be there on and off the ice. But in practice, I think even with our team, not just Michael, but the Hunter Haight and Sapovalov and Joey Willis, it's only going to make Zayne better going against those guys every day in practice. And I think they kind of Michael and Zayne kind of thrive off each other, kind of being similar age group, highly touted guys, kind of pushing each other on the ice for sure, and definitely off the ice they're tight. So it's fun to watch these two grow. You see them come back this year now after a year in our league, and their bodies are changing, their faces are changing, they're becoming young men right before your eyes. And I always think that's the cool thing about being in junior hockey for sure, and watching them, hopefully go live the dream that they want.
What did you mentioned the Hill and Gretzky? What did going there together and then coming back as champions do for them heading into this season?
I think they can bring a lot back to our team. I think at the start and even throughout the tournament, maybe they have to adapt different roles. They both ended up being power play guys there and go-to guys, but off the start, you got to fight for that kind of positioning. And I think going forward the rest of their careers, that's a good thing for them to learn that. Just because you're a high NHL pick doesn't mean you're going to be on the first power play within a couple of years. You still got to keep proving and getting better every day and earn that role. But I think being over there and winning the gold medal, there was a tight game, obviously, in the gold medal game, and they've learned what it takes to win. And I think a lot of that, too, they could learn last year in the playoff series against Flint. I think our first round battle felt almost like a final because of the rivalry and the first time playing each other and the fan bases. It was a great 7-game series, and I think that all helped them go to the link as well and kind of use that kind of drive and not panic when you get down by a goal, or if you blow a game, it's not over. Kind of lean on some experience that they used, and I think that's a good thing for them coming back this year.
You've been around lots of other exceptional players in the OHL, obviously closer to Aaron Ekblad out of Barrie. How is Michael similar? Obviously completely different positions, but just, the mentality that these guys have, their approach to the game. How is he different than some of the other guys you've seen on the ice?
I think him and Aaron are very similar in terms of that they don't seem as young as they are. When you meet them at 15 years old, and I remember meeting Aaron at 15, he was a man already and very mature in the way he can speak to you as an adult and do media and everything at that age is real impressive. And I think there's a reason that Hockey Canada let guys like them in at a young age because they are so impressive and mature off the ice. But the way they just want to be the best. And Aaron was the same way. I mentioned it earlier. They don't want it to be about them. Michael doesn't want it to be about him, even though a lot of attention gets brought to him on the road and at home. They just want to be one of the guys, want to fit in. They joke around, they're kids at the end of the day and they're teammates with everybody on that team. And but just in practice, the way they both pushed, the way they see the ice, it feels like at times they're a step ahead. But both needed work at a young age. It's a very hard league to adjust to for any young hockey player, whether you're 17, 18, or 15, like they were in terms of Aaron and Michael. But you look at what Aaron did in his 15-year-old year, and now what Michael did last year. Unfortunately, the injury cut him short a little bit, but still his points per game and what he did for our team before that, and then coming back from the injury and playing hard in the playoffs for us. They're impressive young elite players. And young men off the ice, that's for sure. And the biggest similarity is just kind of who they are as people and how they were raised and their families, very similar kind of background, great families that keep them humble, push them in school. We push them in school as well. And I think that's a big similarity there.
You guys started off the season as the fourth ranked team in the CHL. Once again, the fourth ranked team in the CHL this week in the CHL top 10 rankings. Did you guys, obviously you're going to have a target on your back this year as hosts of the Memorial Cup. Do you sit the guys down and, kind of talk about how to deal with the expectations and the pressure of being Memorial Cup hosts?
Laz and his staff does a great job kind of keeping our guys grounded. We have a lot of internal goals. Everybody talks about the Memorial Cup and they should, we're hosting it and it's very exciting knowing that we're going to be there, but our intention isn't just to be there. Like, we're there to win our way in. Win the tournament, but we have little goals along the way. We want to win the West Division, win the Western Conference, all these types of things so we've kind of taken the focus away from the Memorial Cup with our team and just focused on these little goals, attaining them along the way. And, with the show about our team coming out, and I think it's all really good for our guys to kind of embrace it early on. There's going to be cameras. There's going to be a lot of talk about our organization throughout the year, which is great, well-deserved. But our players are good kids. They're grounded. They're driven. And our coaching staff, Chris and Jake and Garrett, and down to our training staff, they do a great job with their guys, kind of just preparing them for everything that's ahead. And ultimately, they're going to have to go through these different steps along the way to learn it. But I think we're at a good starting foundation, and our guys are kind of prepared with what we're getting into. And I've been impressed with the way they've handled everything so far.
How important is it for them to be able to, and yourselves, and the coaching staff, to be able to soak in the experience as you guys go along here?
That was the biggest advice given to myself from people that have hosted before. You get caught up in it. It's a lot. You're stressed out at times, but you're trying to make your team better. And, if you lose a game or two, it's going to happen, but try to enjoy it. That was the biggest advice I got. Try to sit back and enjoy it as much as you can. And I've taken that advice to heart. It's going to be a long journey along the way with ups and downs, but it's up to me to stay even keel throughout it and make sure that feeds down to our staff and players and just kind of keep the same messaging that, where we're at, what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to accomplish, but definitely enjoy the process and the ride, because you only go through it one time, and a huge honor and huge thing for our team and our community. And if you're ever down in Saginaw and the talk about it right now, it's phenomenal. You can't go anywhere without talking about it. And I think it's something that the city and the ownership in Saginaw really deserves. And I'm really happy that they got the opportunity to show what a great place it is. And it's a lot of fun, but definitely stay grounded and keep pushing towards your goal.
You mentioned wanting to go in through the front door, winning the OHL championship. No team has been able to do that since Kitchener Rangers did it in 08, and no team has gone through the front door and then won the Memorial Cup since the 05 juggernaut London Knights. So what do you guys have to do to be able to do that? I know we're still a long ways away from playoffs and all of that, but how do you guys have to prepare and keep building your roster to be able to do that?
I think just keep the foundation going. Like we have a strong foundation. We have a great culture in the room. Just kind of keep doing our thing with our coaching staff, keep building our guys up, skill development systems, all those types of things, because ultimately you're going to be in that tournament. But again, it's a very, like you just mentioned, that's tough. It's tough to win your way in, and it's tough to win your way in and then win the tournament. It's the hardest trophy to win in sports. So for us is keep building it. Again, don't get high, don't get low. Keep the players on the same page, get everybody rowing in the same direction, which can be tough, especially in junior hockey. But I feel like our starting point's great here. Our players are great. Our players have bought in. They know what's on the line. We reiterated to them all the time going into the year what a big year this is and what an opportunity they have as players here to do something special, and just keep, again, building the way that we need to play and the way that we need to have this roster set to give ourselves the best chance to win that trophy at the end of the day.
You mentioned that first round series against Flint last year, and then obviously being swept by Sarnia in the second round. But what did that experience do? You had a pretty young roster. How important was having that experience going into this year?
I think it was huge. I think it's kind of undervalued a little bit, how important that round one was. Playing Flint, who was a real good team. They were an older team. They were heavy. They had skill. But we always said that first round series felt like a Game 7 final the whole time. Like the crowds were phenomenal, and people were tailgating before games, and it was rowdy, and there was chanting, and it was it was a series that had everything. It had 3-1 leads in games that were blown. There was 3 overtime games. There was a 3-1 series lead that we gave up to have to force Game 7. Like it had a little bit of everything in it. And I think all those experiences are good for young players to go through. And the best part of our roster last year was that, 21 guys were eligible to return, and those guys all got valuable minutes throughout the playoffs and the grind of what it's going to take day in and day out to win. And that was only one round. So we were lucky enough to win that, and it was quite exciting for our guys to be in that room after that Game 7 win. And we knew we were going to be up tough against Sarnia, but we ended up getting swept against Sarnia. But you look at their team, and Dylan Sika did a heck of a job, and Alan Letang with that team in Sarnia. But the games were actually tight. Game 2 overtime, Goodrow made a huge save in front off Theo Hill. They came down and scored. We win that game. It's 1-1 heading home. You never know what would happen after that, but again, a good learning experience for our guys, and being up against that powerhouse Sarnia team. What it really takes to try to get in the inside, try to get to tough areas and score goals is tough in the playoffs. And I think they had an eye opener of how tough it's going to be come Memorial Cup time.
And for you and Coach Laz, you mentioned the 2019 losing to Guelph there. You guys ended up you were up 3-1 and then ended up losing in Game 7. But what did that experience, seeing that Guelph team and who eventually went on to the Memorial Cup, what did you guys learn from that on how to, construct a team for a Memorial Cup championship?
Yeah, no, we thought we had a really deep team. You look at guys, and we tied it in Game 2. We always watched the Bodie Wild goal clip to tie it late and win in overtime. The guys that were actually on the bench that weren't even on the ice for the extra man out shows you how good of a roster you actually have to have. And we feel like we have that here as a starting point. Obviously, we're going to want to add a few pieces here and there to make it even stronger. But what we learned throughout that, the little details matter. Pucks have to get out, on the wall late in games. You can't turn over pucks in certain areas of the ice. And when you get opportunities, you have to really bear down and try to bury your chance, because the opportunities in the playoffs are a lot tougher to come by. We also learned that, it's not over till it's over. You're up 3-1. Anything can happen in junior hockey, and the switch can flip really quickly. So don't take your foot off when you kind of have a team down. And it was a tough way to learn a lesson, a tough way to go through that playoff series. We had, a few injuries, a few suspensions that, really hurt our group, but no excuses. We didn't get there. And to go on to see Guelph win was definitely tough. But, that followed up by a few COVID years. And now we're back here in a position where we can make a push again. It's exciting to be back in the chair here now.
And now around, like you mentioned, there's the buzz around the Great Lakes Bay region, some improvements to the Dow Event Center. What are some of the improvements that fans and people watching on CHL TV will see this year?
Yeah, it's still undergoing construction right now, but it's definitely given it a facelift. It's great in there. They've put a lot of money and time into it. And again, credit to Craig Goslin and the community of Saginaw to get that done. But the whole new suite level up top is phenomenal. Bathrooms up top, the visitors' dressing rooms are getting renoed right now. The ice plant is going to be finished. An LED ribbon is going to be put in. It's still kind of on back order, but it's coming in here soon. And just the whole way they've cleaned it up and the paint job, like it just looks totally different in there. It's brighter. It has a different vibe. And if you're ever up top watching a game at the suite level, it's definitely different than it ever was, and a phenomenal spot for fans to come watch the game and media to come cover the game. Different party decks on each end of the ice now to add that atmosphere as well. And I always thought our building's great. It's an older building, but when it gets people in there and it gets really loud really quickly. And when you get the 5,000 plus in there, like we had an opening night, close to 5,000, and you score a few goals, our fans get into it, and it's a tough place for visiting teams to come play. And I think, come Memorial Cup time, when everything's completely done and the renovations are completely done, it'll really show well for everybody watching at home or people that are fortunate enough to come to the Memorial Cup.
You also mentioned the Spirit Rising, the 9-part docuseries that you can watch on CHL TV. How exciting is it for the players to have the cameras around and have you guys being followed around this season, but to not get distracted by it as well?
Very exciting. We told our players right from the first day of camp this was happening. Jordan Henry at the league office is a phenomenal guy who just is great in terms of having a feel of when he can be around and when he doesn't want to be around, but he's just there and he's part of our team now. It feels like, he's in the dressing room, he's around the team whenever he's not every day, but when he's here once a month filming for the show, and our players, talk to me like he's one of the staff. I think it's good. I think our guys are comfortable with it. I think it's a good thing heading into the Memorial Cup. If you watch the Memorial Cup, the TV crews are in there in intermissions filming things for commercial break. And, I think that can be tough on players if they get a little bit nervous. They haven't had it before, but for us to be able to give that to them now throughout the year, it'll kind of be second nature for them. But in terms of the show, I think it's phenomenally well done. It's been one episode. I know episode 2 is coming out here at the end of the month. But for our players to be part of it, and again, showcasing our community to everybody that maybe doesn't really know much about Saginaw and the Great Lakes Bay region and our team and our dressing room and our staff. For me, I always say it'll be something I have my whole life. When I'm 80 years old, I can look back and watch this journey that we're on, and hopefully it ends the way that we want it to end. But we just saw the first episode and the build up to it, and you're reliving already, what happened last year with the press conference and everything like that. And it gives you chills. So I know our players were excited that it was happening, and then excited to have Jordan around and our first episode come out. And like I said, I can't say enough good things about the production of it and the way Jordan conducts himself around the team. And like I said, he feels like he's part of the staff when he's around. So definitely not as much of a distraction as you might think.
You mentioned your goaltender, Andrew Oak. People are going to look at his experience in the OHL, or I suppose the lack thereof. Why are you so confident in heading into the season with Andrew as your number one goalie?
Yeah, so Andrew got a lot of experience at a young age in our league, and I think he has more experience in our league than people, give him credit for. As a 17-year-old, his rookie year in the league, because we didn't play the year before, Tristan Lennox got hurt, and Andrew played a lot of games for a 17-year-old goalie on a team that we were in a rebuild at that time, and he fared extremely well. And to his credit, with Tristan coming back last year, Andrew, just bided his time, worked extremely hard, kept working at his craft until he got the opportunity to be the number one, which he is here now. But, he's been part of 2 World Juniors with Team USA. Again, played a lot of big moments. Even last year down the stretch, we were trying to solidify kind of that home ice position. And Tristan had an unfortunate little knee injury for, I think, 2 or 3 games in a row. Andrew took over Kitchener. We won in overtime. Mississauga, he shut them out, I believe. It was 2-0. And he was phenomenal. He was the reason we won that game. So he's played big games for us. We have the utmost confidence in Andrew. Our players do. He's earned this. And I think he's a goalie that has been to NHL camps. He's been to Arizona, been to Detroit, been in the World Juniors, been in a lot of big moments, even going back to his minor hockey career in Honeybake, the powerhouse Honeybake team he was on. So we have a lot of faith in him. And through the first 3 games, he showed everybody what he can do. And we're extremely confident with him on the back end.
We also talked a little bit about all the assets at your disposal from the Michikov trade. Are you the type of guy that wants to go out and get something done early? Are you constantly checking in with teams to see where their mentality is at? How does your thought process go with in regards to how you want to spend your capital there?
I'm definitely like a guy that likes to get things done early if I can. It's extremely tough to do, but I think the longer you can have a player with your organization into the culture and being around the guys in the community is extremely important. I've had a habit of making big deals in November the last few times I've done this, including Hunter Haight last year. But no, it takes two to dance that way, and definitely keeping in touch with all the colleagues around the league and different GMs and where they're at. Obviously, right now, we've played 3 games. Some teams have played 6, so we're extremely early in the year, and nobody's really knowing which way they're wanting to go yet. But they definitely have my number with players that might be available, and I'll keep checking in with them. You never want to bug teams, but you definitely want to be known that, hey, if you're going to interested in maybe looking to rebuild this year and move a player for draft picks, like you definitely know that you have a suitor in myself, and I think it's a no-brainer for other teams around the league to know that, knowing that we're hosting. And but I also feel I have a good relationship with the other GMs around the league, and I think that goes a long way as well in terms of the communication back and forth.
Is it harder to make a deal with, the teams knowing that you're hosting, so they know you really want to make that move and they can, kind of leverage that against you?
I'm not sure yet, because the only move I really did was with Barrie with Haché, but they had no A issue at the time too as well, because they had a lot of good OAs that were returning to them. And but I don't. We'll find out. I guess jury's still out on that one. But at the end of the day, deals have to make sense for both teams. I don't, just because we're hosting, I'm not going to completely overpay, and just because I have a lot of draft picks doesn't mean I'm going to completely give up more draft picks just because I have them. I always say to people, just because you have a lot of money just doesn't mean you go throw it away because you have a lot of it. You still buy things for the price that they're valued at, and not that I'm calling players assets, but I mean just when you're going to add in terms of draft picks, you need to make sure that you're using the right draft capital you have to be able to acquire the talent that you want to bring into your team and help give yourself the best chance to win.
For sure. Well, the only OHL team that's currently ranked ahead of you guys in the CHL top 10 rankings would be the London Knights. They seem to always be a powerhouse in the OHL. You guys see them all the time in the Western Conference. You don't face them until the 22nd of October, but what do you guys have to do if you want to win the championship? You're going to end up having to go through London at one point. So what do you guys have to do to be able to beat London this year?
Yeah, London, that organization speaks for itself. They're always up there. You kind of think anytime that you want to make a push in the Western Conference, you're going to have to go through London at least. That's a team at the top of your mind. The Hunters do a phenomenal job. Mark works so hard. He's out scouting every time I'm at a game. Mark Hunter's there. So him and his staff work extremely hard. So it's not a coincidence that his team is built the way they are, and they're always in contention. And for us to be able to compete with them, I think, just put the deep roster together. They're going to have a good team. Obviously, they have it. They're probably going to add to that team as well, I would assume. So it'll be a test for our guys. But I think the biggest thing is, we're going to be able to match up with them here in October, earlier in the year, see where we're at before either team's made any moves, see what we might need to add on. But I don't think you can focus just on one team you need to go through. You look at Owen Sound's roster and Guelph and other teams in the West. I think the West is always really powerful. And this year there's a lot of teams that can compete in the West. So you don't want to look at one team and think, what do we have to do to beat that team? Because, going back to that Guelph year in 2019 when we lost to Guelph, London was up 3-0 on them, and we thought we were playing London in the conference finals, and then Guelph came back to beat them, right? So, and we ended up losing to Guelph. But no, you look at different teams that have won here before, the type of rosters they have, what they acquired at the deadline. It's almost like a big research project that I do all the time, and what really fits the puzzle pieces that you're trying to do with your team, and what other teams have added to be able to do what they did. You look what Hamilton did a few times, adding McTavish and Jack Eye, and before that with Thomas and guys like that. They're significant adds, and help them, get the ultimate goal of winning, and that's what we're going to have to do. But we definitely do look at London's roster and Sault Ste. Marie, another team that I never mentioned. They're going to be a tough team to beat. Kyle Raptis and Diener's done a great job up there adding to that group, and they're a deep team that plays a certain way that's tough to beat. So it's up to us to kind of focus more on what we can do for our team, to get our team playing at the top of its game, and not worry as much about other teams. And you always can't contradict moves just because a team did something. You can't do it yourself. You have to really focus on what you need and put your best foot forward.
Well, Dave, I'm not going to take up any more of your time today. This has been great. Thank you very much, and good luck this season.
No, I appreciate you having me on.
Newly minted captain Braden Haché joins the Spirit after stops in Kingston and Barrie, where he played alongside guys like Shane Wright and Brant Clark. Now entering his 5th year in the OHL, Haché is looking to lead his Spirit to an OHL championship and a Memorial Cup title. We talk about the opportunity to join the Spirit, the confidence shown by the coaching staff, how his experience can help with his new teammates, Misa and Parekh, the culture in Saginaw, and keeping an eye on what's happening in the WHL and QMJHL. Here's Braden Haché. Now, sticking with the Saginaw Spirit theme today, my next guest was recently named the 24th captain in franchise history. It's defenseman Braden Haché. Braden, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
I'm pretty good. Starting to get settled in there in Saginaw?
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, a couple weeks now past camp, so weekend into the season, couple weekends in, so starting to get the groove of the everyday schedule. So yeah, things are good.
What did it mean to you to be named not only captain of the Saginaw Spirit, but Memorial Cup hosting team? In such an important year for the franchise, and then to just come into the organization and then be named captain. What does that mean?
Yeah, honestly, honored is really the word that describes it the best. But honestly, it's such a good group of guys and staff that I felt like I had played my whole career there within days. It was so easy to come in. With Laz, he does a great job, drinks with the organization, and just the guys. It's so easy and fun to come to the rink every day. And I think that's the biggest part about junior hockey too, is coming and having fun and getting better every day, and really just gelled with everyone really, really quickly. And it's a group that all has the same mindset, and we know what's at stake every day. So the standards are high. And I'm honored to be able to wear the C for this team. But there's so many leaders in this dressing room, and such a good core group that we talked about that. We talk about that every day. How strong our core group is, and how far that will go as we add players and the team develops throughout the year.
You guys have a good mix of youth and veterans on the team. How do you make sure as a veteran that everybody does stay together in a good cohesive group?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, like, we're not isolated in Saginaw, but there's not around a lot around other than us. And I think that's a blessing in a group like this, where we spend so much time together, that it's such a tight group, because we hang out, or it's hey, let's go watch football tonight, or all those things that go on top of being together at the rink all day. It's such a fun group to be around, and the mood, the way that the environment that is in the dressing room that Laz has created around the room, and the relationship with the coaches and practices has created such a positive environment that everyone's in a good mood and willing to push each other and help each other. And it's honestly just a super exciting place to be. And we've got a lot of young talent, like whether they're young or they're an older guy in this league. The talent is so high that we learn off each other. So it doesn't matter in our group whether you're 16 or 20. We're all brothers.
What kind of captain would you say that you are? What kind of leader are you?
Now, a vocal leader for sure. I like to be a voice on the bench. Someone that the guys can rely on, though. Approachable. Really, if they need to ask me anything, that's the biggest thing that I've found in leadership, which I've really taken a lot of pride in, is getting to know every player on a personal level. I feel like that's the best thing you can do, because certain guys need to be pushed harder in different ways than other guys, and you need to know players personally to do so. And I feel like that was a big thing in my first couple weeks here, is getting to know everybody as much as I could on a personal level, and being able to not just talk hockey with them, but feel like they can come and talk to me about anything. So really just being a good voice in the room, a guy that brings comfort to the boys, and someone that the guys know will always have their back no matter what.
Like a good big brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there anybody on the roster that kind of surprised you that you'd kind of played against and had something that you had thought about them, but then when you met them, they were completely different?
Not it's kind of hard because I found myself searching up, the roster of the team because of COVID and different, playing in the East. I really had only played these guys a couple times in my OHL career, I think four. So really not a lot. I didn't know a lot. I knew that they were, a pain in the butt to play against in the D zone as a defenseman. So I've been adjusting to the offensive side of that system. But I think the players just really um a guy like Dean Locus, who maybe a lot of guys around the league don't know his name. He's an overager for us. And he is one skilled player, like blew me away right off the hop. I think he's going to have a great breakout year where, he'll put a lot of teams on notice. And then obviously the noticeable talent around, Zayne and Misa and those players, and watching them go to work and being challenged playing against them in practice every day has been awesome. Yeah.
I know when you were younger, you used to do some officiating. How did that experience kind of change how you interact out on the ice and maybe with teammates?
Yeah, obviously I grew up around the other side of the game, hockey in general, but yeah, obviously grew up around that side of the game. I think it's just, especially being a leader and older in this league, an older person in this league now, it's easier to be able to talk to officials, know a lot of that side of the game. And it's just, there's also the side of that's human too. So bringing that level of comfort to the bench, like we'll let our coaches worry about that. We just got to worry about, whether we're on the power play or we're killing. The rest will take care of itself, but we got to focus on what's going on at hand. So I feel like that's been something that I could bring to the team, just that level of comfortness to guys who might, lose their emotions in those types of situations.
Well, other than the opportunity to play in the 104th Memorial Cup presented by Dow, what made going to Saginaw so enticing versus, say, signing an AHL deal?
I think the thing that was most exciting about it, obviously, with the Memorial Cup, but it's such a young, exciting team with such like high octane offense, which when I think about myself is not a huge part of my game, but that's somewhere where I feel like I can develop a lot. And coming to a team like this that is so skilled and developing players on the offensive side of the game is, they're known for that. It's exciting for a player like me that feels like there's, probably more of uh, that I can do in the ozone, but always, haven't really had the confidence to do so. So playing in a system like this where I'm moving around and, I'll find myself in front of the net instead of on the blue line. And it's exciting because, everybody's excited about it too. We come and it's like playing, once you get rolling in our system, it's like playing just hockey with your friends, and it's fun and it's fast and it's loud and the energy's high. So that's what I was most excited about, and it blew me away even more once I arrived.
Have you had those conversations with Drinks or Laz? Because I spoke to Drinks earlier today, and he said that him and Laz believe that there is some untapped offensive potential in you. So, how nice is it to have the confidence of the GM and the coaching staff to hopefully put you in some more offensive situations this year and opportunity to score more?
Yeah, it's really all you need as a player is confidence. And I feel like that's the biggest thing with a lot of players that, they don't have the confidence to make plays and they end up not making plays that, they're capable of, and maybe look back on film and you go, oh, I could have done this or that. But that was really nice to hear. It was one of the first conversations we had. They mentioned that, and it's something that I've believed my whole life. And I've just never really had the confidence to embrace that and develop that offensive side of the game. But Laz does such a good job at, like, our practices and skill sessions are so detailed with like the habits that you need to make those plays, and we work on them daily. And I feel like just the repetitive like repeating that every single day gives you the confidence to try those moves in games. And he also is a type of coach where if you're trying to make a good play, like, he understands like mistakes will happen. So that also gives you confidence to be able to, you're not scared to make that mistake if you're going to try an offensive play. And but I've found myself already developed a ton on the offensive side of just edge work and different ways to escape guys to keep possession of the puck, which is a big part of our game.
Now, last year you were voted, the second best defensive defenseman in the Eastern Conference, and you played alongside a really offensive guy in Brant Clark when you were in Barrie. So, how can you help a young offensive defenseman like Misa Parekh, who broke that rookie goal scoring record last year?
Yeah, wicked player. Learn a lot off guys like that every day. I felt like myself, trying to take little things that I could off. Obviously, Clarkie last year we gelled really well in that second half, and being around Z every day. Those players, the biggest thing for me is giving them a sense of comfort when they're on the ice to be able to do those and jump up with the play and know that I'm back. I have their back. If things go sideways, then I'm back there. But I think for them, it's just like they play the game at such a high speed and they think, differently than everybody else does and at a different level than a lot of players do in this league. And just allowing them to play. And I feel like I learned how to play with players like that, playing with Clarkie last year. You just have to react off them. And that's really the biggest thing, is to let them play their game and you can react off them, whether that's switching sides or different things or different outlets. But Z's going to have a great year and obviously a career. But yeah, he's a real good hockey player.
And then the other guy that everybody's going to talk about on Saginaw is obviously Michael Misa. You played alongside Shane Wright for a long time in Kingston. How are those two players similar? How are they different? Maybe the way their mentality is, because those high end guys usually have a different approach.
Yeah, I think the thing with those guys is just the want to get better every day, the little things, and really it's just the talent. They're just gifted. They're gifted hockey players, gifted humans. I feel like the biggest thing with those kind of players is they, like I said, and it's the same with Z and Clarkie. I put them in the same category. Like they're players that think the game at a completely different level at such a young age. And you learn off them so easily in the plays and seeing them. And I've honestly been really lucky to be around players like that, because I think having those guys on your team, and especially with the Spirit this year, and will only get better as the year goes on, is it pushes you to be better every day in practice. So, taking a 3-on-2 against Mies like every single day, like our 2-on-1, or learning how they think and how they react. But it's also, you could ask them things like, they beat you. It's like they see little things, whether it's the position of your feet or your stick that they beat you on, that you can learn off players like that. So he's blown me away as well. So I'm honestly just excited to watch these guys, make sick plays out there. It's going to be sweet. That's what Laz always says, go out there and make sick plays. So it's funny, but it's honestly a big part of our game. And it's just he allows those players to be creative. So players like that, they thrive in Saginaw's system.
So then, kind of sum up what type of team you've kind of hit on it a few times here, but what kind of team is the Saginaw Spirit going to be this year?
Yeah, a high octane team. One of the biggest things we work on every day is being so strong defensively as well in our D zone arrivals, and just being super annoying to play against. We're going to be all in your face on the forecheck and the O zone. You have no idea where anybody is. That's kind of our thing. And we're just going to transition really fast. Super hardworking, fast team, moves the pucks fast. But we're going to be physical too. And I think that's the biggest thing. Nobody has any space in our D zone, and that's what allows us to keep playing fast in the O zone. So we're a team that's just going to wear teams down over and over again.
How important is it to get the message that, team success will lead to individual success for some of the guys that are coming up, either looking to get contracts or looking to get drafted or just making a name for themselves?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing for us this year, I feel like, is the opportunities there. Like, we're going to get the opportunity. We're being followed all year. Obviously those, the Spirit rising, like behind the scenes, like there's a lot of following around our team this year. And the message every day has just been like, the better we are as a group and the more we can perform, because we don't want to go into this Memorial Cup as a host. Like we want to go in champions. We believe we can be champions of this league. And our team's only going to grow and get better as weeks go on, and the rest will take care of itself. But that's the message every day, is that you have to buy into the system. And if you don't want to buy into the system and play the way we're playing, it's simple. You just won't be in Saginaw anymore. That's been the message from day one. So everyone's bought in, and really you just stick out like a sore thumb if you don't buy in here. So that's what's made it so fun, is everyone's on the same page, and you've got a group of 23 men that are all driven to do the same thing, plus staff. So yeah.
I know you guys have only played 3 games so far, but do you kind of embrace the target that's going to be on your back this year? And maybe, how much can that benefit you guys, knowing that everybody is going to try to knock you guys off this year as hosts of the Memorial Cup?
Yeah, I think it also brings it grows us as a team, because we're going to get every team in the league's best game every night we play them. Everyone's going to want to beat us. They're going to want to say, we beat the Spirit, they're hosting the Mem Cup, we beat them. So I feel like we know we're going to get every team's best game every night, which is only going to make us better. And we love that in the room. We embrace that, but we also know where we need to be. So we hold ourselves at a very high expectation of where we need to be every single day. That leads to the weekends, that leads to wins that need to go in the bank, because, we want to finish on the top of the league.
Nobody's perfect, so maybe what kind of areas are you guys still trying to make some adjustment on and improve upon?
Yeah, I think the biggest message this last couple weeks as we go into the season is being, we're so high octane offense, like I talked about, that we need to be the same in the D zone. We need to be the same, super hard to play against. And the biggest thing we've talked about is just making it so hard for teams to get set in our zone. We don't want anybody to get set in our zone. And throughout our system, and we've been working on just creating turnovers right off the hop, being able to go the other way. So that's the biggest thing that we're working on right now. And it's honestly come real quick in a matter of a couple practices. Guys' habits are already changing. So we'll see that translate to the ice soon.
You mentioned the Spirit Rising 9-part docuseries that's they're following you around all this year. First, how cool is that to have that for you guys this year? And then, what are you kind of hoping that fans can get from that docuseries?
Yeah, it's cool. As any hockey player's dream in this journey, to have it documented is really fun, and it's cool, and be able to watch those episodes. You get goosebumps every time you see, like, the first one was pretty cool, and it's only going to get cooler once we get more into the hockey aspect in our journey throughout the season and the ups and downs that'll follow. But really the biggest thing, and I feel like that's what the players in the league want to see too, and what I've had the pleasure of and the honor of being able to be a part of it now, is how professional hockey is in Saginaw, from the organization, like top down, our facilities, the way things are run, lads and drinks, and just everything to do around the organization has been so pro from my time here so far, that I feel like that's not very known around the league. Like, this is a spot to play. This is a spot that players should want to come in here and play, should want to be traded here, should want to be drafted here. Playing here has been, and what I think is one of the best places to prep yourself to try and make it to the next level, because of how they run things. So I hope that that's a big thing that is seen around the league and in fan bases, and there should just be more. There is a lot of excitement around Saginaw, but in the general side of junior hockey, there should be a lot of excitement about playing in Saginaw.
And if people are looking to watch that first episode, they can go back and watch the replay of it on CHL TV. You got to play Kingston 3 times after you were traded last year. You don't play Barrie until February 3rd. What was it like when you first played against Kingston? What do you think it's going to be like when you play against Barrie?
Yeah, it was weird. I spent a lot of time in Kingston. Love the city and the organization. I have a lot of respect for them. Really grew as, from 16 to 19 there. So it was weird for sure. It was honestly weirder playing because I played Kingston pretty quick off the hop. We actually lost in Barrie, so that made it even better not. But it was more comfortable playing against them in Kingston just because of the level of comfort. I had pretty much grown up in that rink for the last 3 years, so stepping on that ice was pretty comfortable to me. Um, but no, playing Barrie will be the same thing. Obviously, I had a shorter stint there, just the back half, but really awesome organization that we had a lot of mutual respect, and it'll be fun to go back there. Obviously, it's real close to home too, so it was always fun playing in that barn.
Knowing that you guys are hosting the Memorial Cup, how often will you kind of keep tabs on the other leagues, the QMJHL and the WHL?
Yeah, well, we already look at just rosters of past years, where we need to be, have watched games of past Memorial Cups, last year's Memorial Cup, where we need to be as a team and holding ourselves to that standard. We know that it's obviously it's different with trades in other leagues too. Those teams stack up. There's not a lot of teams that try and go for it in those leagues, so the teams are that much better with than opposing teams in the league. So we understand that, the talent and where we need to be as a team needs to be better than those teams. So obviously we'll keep an eye out for it. But our first focus is obviously being the most dominant team in the OHL.
And just when you're out and around, the Great Lakes Bay region, what's the vibe around there right now? I've heard things. I hear everybody's getting excited, but from a player's perspective, what's it like?
It's awesome. I've actually had the privilege of visiting all the spots now. We went to dinner in Midland not that long ago, which is a nice spot, and then Bay City. And I spent the day in Frankenmuth walking around the other day, which is where a lot of the Mem Cup stuff's going to be. And what an awesome town. But like Craig Gosling said in the Spirit Rising interview, obviously he's been here his whole life, but it's just there's a buzz around like all the time. Like there's we got a big new mural that's outside our rink now. Like there's just a buzz that's around the city. That you kind of feel all the time. Like, you're walking by driving by big screens on the highway and they've got, Mem Cup stuff all over it. And it's just to know that you're a part of that is so cool. But at the same time, you got to pinch yourself and you're like, okay, I want to just, enjoy the journey too. We can't look forward too much.
Well, after you guys face Flint, you go off to familiar stomping grounds for you to the Eastern Conference and Oshawa, Mississauga. How much are you looking forward to just getting back into a flow of the regular season and getting in some meaningful games again now?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like we had a bit of a slower start schedule wise. I think we've played like the least amount of games in the league at the point we are right now, but it's going to be fun to get like a full weekend and like a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday on the road where we leave Thursday. So that starts early too. So it's going to be fun. I think it's also good for the young guys and for us to just start to get into a swing of things. Like we did the first weekend and then we only had one game this past weekend. So it was a bit of a slower start, but it's fun once you get rolling and you get into just, you're practicing the week, you got a full weekend ahead and you just get into the grind of things. So it's a big weekend for us. We need all the points. Everything starts now. We don't want to look back and think that we could have had 2 points in these games that'll be going for, maybe a Western Conference banner. So for us, it's a business trip, but it's going to be exciting. It's fun.
Awesome. Braden, thank you very much for this. Good luck against Flint and good luck this weekend and the rest of the season.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Make sure you tune in next week where I will welcome back TSN's Director of Scouting, Craig Button. We'll see who Craig thinks has the potential to join the Saginaw Spirit at the 104th Memorial Cup presented by Dow. Until next time.